So I got to give two shout outs. First of all, one to Dope Spill Comics and the other to Flip Pages Comics. That's Dope Spill Comics and Flip Pages Comics here on YouTube. Because one of the videos that got recommended to me, when you're scrolling and everything and seeing what, is in your subscription feed and, what videos are being recommended to you and such. Well, one video was by Dope Spill Comics talking about a series called The Cult of Carnage, which came out last year. And they recently put out a video. I guess they do this like every few days. They talk about an issue, they talk about an issue, I should say, of a comic, especially if it's a miniseries or not. And, they just give their thoughts about it and how things are and, and so on and so forth. Well, The Cult of Carnage had a 5-part miniseries, as far as we know, called Misery, and it focused on a Spider-Man character in the comics called Liz Allen, who is a doctor and part of Oscorp and all that, and basically wants to do the right thing for people. She wants to make sure everybody is taken care of and such. Well, she ends up getting infected by a fusion of both, I guess, anti-venom and Carnage, together. Basically, it's a fusion symbiont that bonds with her, and she becomes the symbiont known as Misery. And what's interesting about this, and this is something I always felt that Marvel or anybody that deals with this kind of story or these kind of elements in their story should really take advantage of. And that is the fact that in this 5-part miniseries, The Cult of Carnage, aka Misery, what's interesting about it is we find out that basically the host of these new fusion symbionts, anti-venom and Carnage, can basically be torn apart. They can basically get, ripped to shreds, basically they can have, the limbs dismembered, whatever, but they can rejuvenate. They can basically rebuild their bodies and such, regenerate. And I saw this when I was watching Dope Spill Comics discussion on issue 2 of Cult of Carnage Misery. And then I went to, because it was recommended after I was watching that, I went to Flip Pages Misery. Well, actually what I did is I went into the search option, typed in Cult of Carnage Misery, and it came up with Flip Pages Comics YouTube channel, where they basically have all the issues there for you to read, along with some accompanying music as well. So I scanned through those, and what I saw, did correlate with what Dope Spill Comics was talking about. And what it is that Liz Allen, finds out that basically she can regenerate herself. That her and anybody else affected with this new fusion or new bonding of symbiotes, if you will, can rejuvenate themselves. And that basically the symbiont now, as we find out in the comic, has bonded itself to her body so much that her body is fair game. And that now she can do, whatever she wants to do with her body, especially when she becomes a symbiont. Kind of like Mary Jane, I think, in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, after she was, Queen Carnage, and then we find out that the Carnage symbiont, bonded with her DNA in her body, and she can just construct anything out of her own arms without having to, basically change into the Spider-Woman suit that she creates via the symbiont. Essentially, that's what Liz Allen finds out. She figures, okay, because what happens is a situation that occurs. It kind of deals with a potential romance she has with another character, which she does develop or start anyway. at the end of the miniseries. She does start it. But, just to really get some air and kind of, clear her thoughts and everything, she figures, okay, I'm going to see, in the middle of the night that is, she figures, I'm going to see, if I have the same abilities as Carnage, if not more. Like, can I do certain things? Because, she finds out that, like I said, she can regenerate when she has this little squabble with this female monkey or female chimpanzee called Grace. This female chimpanzee called Grace. And she figures, okay, let's see if maybe that was a fluke or maybe I could do more than that. And what she does literally is she, like I said, she's webbing, slingshotting her way through the city at night, in the middle of the night. And she decides to head right to a water tower, basically a similar one that I think Carnage or somebody with the Carnage symbiote used one time to test their abilities. And she literally, basically slingshots herself right into it and goes splat. Basically, she splats herself into a gooey symbiote puddle, on the water tower, and then she reforms, and then she has the line of, "Oh, that was awesome." Like, she enjoyed it. And I look at that, and of course, me being a fan of the melting gag or the melting trope, lustful melt, whatever, I'm kind of, looking at that, I'm kind of happy nowadays that, Marvel is, especially with their, Marvel universe, comic universe, what have you, animated universe, what have you, I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that they're now finally taking advantage of, this situation. Now, I know some people will say, well, they've done it before, because, like I said, like I mentioned moments ago, you had the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon where we saw that with Mary Jane after she was, the Queen Carnage, or the Carnage Queen, and then she was basically saved, and she was basically saved, and she essentially ended up having the Carnage symbiote bond with her DNA, from then on in. So I know they've kind of played around with it in the past, but I've never really seen it. And maybe I haven't read many comics, Spider-Man related, as of late, all the tie-ins, because there's just so many. But I think this is one of the first times, ever, as far as I know, that, in the comics themselves, that they've actually, they've actually played around with this. And it's actually the first time in the comics. I mean, like I said, in other medias like cartoons and everything, they've done it. But I think for the first time in the comics, this is like this is like a rare situation. Now, apparently, this fusion of Carnage and Anti-Venom, which, has bonded DNA, whole body and everything with Liz Allen, obviously this is not just a one-off character. This character is going to be around for quite some time because of her connections, to Peter Parker, her connections to the Osborn family and such, her connection with Harry, when he was alive, and so on. So she's going to be around. But apparently she's going to be a good Carnage symbiont. She's basically on the side of good. But there is that possibility that she could, allow herself to be corrupted by, the darker side of the symbiont if that was to happen. But if she has the anti-venom symbiont fused with the Carnage one that created her symbiont suit, then, well, it makes more sense. And what's interesting too is we find out that usually in the stories, and this is true, the symbionts feed off of the, not feed off, but the symbionts have aggression that they basically give to the host. They basically amp up any anger or emotion that their hosts have hidden inside, and they help that aggression come out. Well, apparently here, Liz Allen has her own aggression and everything because of everything she's been through. And basically because of that, it's balancing out the situation. It's either, I think it's balancing or canceling out the aggression that symbionts would have on her. And instead, it's allowing her to have more control over the symbiont when, the misery, because that's the name they choose, misery, then the symbionts would have over her, because the symbionts basically, if they, had more control, like they're the ones supplying the, the power and everything to build out, to let loose this aggression and everything, that, people have, hidden inside. They become more in control. Basically, they're the ones that, cause people to do certain things they normally wouldn't do. But here though, is a situation to where she's one of those characters, one of the rare characters anyway, that, can basically, balance out the anger and everything, the aggression that a symbiont would need to feed on to basically maintain control herself and not allow the symbiont to control her, which is kind of a unique little feature to have. And I hope that if they continue with these Venom movies, because we know Venom 3 is coming out later this year, hopefully, without any interference, we, hope maybe what they could do in future Venom films, if they do more, or they do some Venom spin-offs, maybe they can explore this kind of a, this kind of story with the symbionts, and I think that would be kind of cool. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I've been wanting them to do something like this in the comics for quite some time. Again, like I said earlier, I know they did it in Ultimate Spider-Man, and especially with Mary Jane in that one. But to me, it's like, you have the opportunity to do it more, more so than just, in this cartoon. Obviously they did it in the cartoon because, it's an alternate universe and they want to explain how Mary Jane became Spider-Woman, and one way to do it is, the Carnage symbiont bonding to her DNA after she's rescued, and now she's able to manipulate her arm, her own human arm, into whatever she needs for that time being, as well as manipulate her own suit to help, fight, alongside Peter as Spider-Man and such. But again, I like this. I really do. And I like the fact is, and I say this with all due respect, no offense. I say it with all due respect, no offense. I like the fact that, it's another female that, is going to be, using the symbiont for good. And that this one has, kind of an understanding of what she needs to do, to stay in control of it, But you can also tell I think in issue 2, I think it was issue 2, that, you could tell she's going to have a little fun with this, when it comes to testing her abilities. The fact that she basically, decides to go out and get air and swing across the city and decides, okay, let's see how much I can test my abilities, and then right into a wall, and then, splats herself into a puddle of goop on the wall, and then reconstitutes herself, and her first, reaction is, that was awesome. So you can kind of tell she's going to have a little fun with that. She's going to have a little fun and everything with that, if they decide to continue her character as Misery in future Spider-Man related books down the line, which I think they will. They might even do some lighthearted ones as well, because, hey, you don't always want to be dark and dreary and everything. You want to have a little fun. You want to be a little lighthearted. And what better way than, to do that than to have a character that might go by the name of Misery, but is anything but that, except towards like those that harm, her family, her friends, and, innocent people and such. So, so honestly, I'm glad they did this. I'm glad they did this, and I look forward to whenever they, do more with the character in the future. Again, I think they should do a lighthearted comedic take a little bit in the comics, especially if you're aiming it at younger kids, and let her have a little bit of fun with that. Let her have a little bit of fun with her powers and everything, because that's what kids like to see. They like to, as kids, and knowing that myself, it's like when I was growing up, we always imagine, what we would do if we had the same ability. Why not do that for, when you do little, projects, little comics or shows for the kids, with these characters? Do that with this character. Bring her into the fold, and you don't have to make her a doctor or anything. If you do, that's fine, but let her have some fun with her power. let her have fun with her power, knowing that she could just rejuvenate herself. Rejuvenate herself and go from there. I mean, they even tease the fact that she could shape her arm and everything, just like Carnage or anybody that has the Carnage symbiote part of their DNA can do. But it's also alluded to that it's not just, arm-wise and all that. She can also, like, change her shape entirely. Like, she could actually become something more than just, having armor, have her hands and stuff become armor and such, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I know this has gone a little longer than it should, but I just wanted to say that I truly appreciate what they did here. And hopefully we'll see more of this character, Liz Allen, as the Misery fusion symbiont. And again, I think one of the things they can do and should, especially if they want to target little kids, is do a little bit of a fun comic and maybe a little fun show, animated wise, with her being brought in and her having fun with the powers. Just having fun with the powers, so that kids, that read it, can imagine to themselves, man, what would it be like if we had that kind of power as well? Because they're kind of hinting at they hint at the fact that, while she's testing her abilities, what she can do, she's going to have some fun with that. She's going to have some fun here and there. And what's going to be interesting is, she's starting a relationship. She's now at the end of the story. She's starting a relationship with this other doctor, But his thing, he doesn't know about, her alter ego. So it makes things interesting when they do have to approach that, or if they decide, okay, how are we going to do a steamy situation? Like, what if we want to write in a steamy, scene or panel, if you know what I mean, between her and this love interest? Will that, moment happen once, before or after she reveals her powers, and then maybe she uses her powers to have a little bit of fun, if you know what I mean. I mean, that would be up to Marvel, but, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But overall, I'm happy that they're finally embracing, like I said, I'm happy they're finally embracing this, because to me, you need to do this. You need to do this. And it also, again, to me, shows that those over at Marvel themselves understand, and again, saying this with all due respect, no offense, that when you give a woman character or female character these kind of abilities, even if it's symbiont based, when you give them these kind of abilities, especially with the fact that they can rejuvenate, regenerate, reconstitute themselves, you're basically playing into the fact that they are very, that women, from a mindset, if you will, that women, when you compare them to men, have a more innovative, imaginary, mischievous side to them. And creative side to them as well. More, like I said, a more imaginative, innovative, creative, and mischievous side to them. So I'm glad they're finally tapping into that, because, again, I could see if they want to go a little lighthearted with this character in the future, comedic-wise, young kids, whatever, they could have her written to have a little bit of fun with this power and reconstituting herself every time she falls apart, or shape-shifting into whatever she needs to be or whoever she needs to be and stuff like that. So, again, I'm kind of glad that they went this route. Will we see this character again? Hey, this is Marvel, this is Spider-Man. Obviously, we will, because of the connection with the symbionts, and like I said, the connection that this Liz Allen has with Peter Parker, and the connection she had with Harry Osborn and the Oscorp Corporation and such. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I can't wait. I really can't wait. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What were your thoughts on the introduction of Misery, Liz Allen's symbiote alter ego, which is a fusion of anti-venom and Carnage, and basically it's for good, one of the good symbionts out there, good symbiont-hosted people. Let me know down below. And do you think, and do you agree that maybe they should explore more lighthearted stories, comedic stories with the character in the comics as well as in animation? As well as maybe targeting towards little kids, where basically this character can be mischievous, innovative, creative, imaginary with the powers that they have, where they can reconstitute themselves and become whatever they need and such and stuff like that. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. And again, shout out to Flip Pages Comics and Dope Spill Comics. Thank you guys for posting the comics, on YouTube for us to read and have nice music to listen to. And of course, that's a shout out to Flip Pages Comics, and again, shout out to Dope Spill Comics for putting out that information for us to read and get a kick out of as well. But until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are, and I'm out.